right, welcome. So the first thing everybody wants to do when they get Adobe Photoshop is work on an image. However, the first thing that you really need to do is set it up. There's just a whole bunch of stuff that you need to get right from the beginning. It's gonna save you a lot of fuss and headaches in the long run. So what I'm gonna do is try to go through this as quick as possible so you understand how to use the program. The very first thing that we're going to do here is we're going to actually go into the preferences, and we're going to go File, Settings, I guess, not Preferences. And we'll go down to Camera Raw. Just in case you haven't done this yet, right here we've got File Handling, we've got Performance, Defaults, Workflow, and Workflow is what we want. I'm going to be working right here, as you can see, in Adobe RGB 1998. 16 bits per channel. This is probably not the default, and I make the resolution 300 pixels per inch. That's all you need to do. Set it to that. If you want to change this later, that's not a big deal, but you got to start at some point, and as you learn the program you can make changes. Look, everybody's workflow is going to be a little bit different. So we'll come back up here to settings, and I think the settings for PC might be in a different spot. They might be under edit. I'm not positive. This is a Mac, so I'm going to come here, and then we're going to go to interface, and we're going to simply go in here. I'm going to move this into the center, and I will zoom in on the screen here, and we'll start on general then. There are things in here that we need to change, and there's some things that we don't need to change. I will do my best to explain what I'm changing and why. Everything else, we're just going to leave it as a default. For general, we're not going to do anything, so we're going to select here. This is just the way it looks. I have it on this gray one, but I could simply come in here and make it a darker version, a lighter version, a bright white version. That one hurts my eyes. In this case, I'm just going to pick that. It doesn't matter what you do. I'm not going to change any of this stuff down here, so we'll go to Workspace. Inside of Workspace, nothing to change. Notifications, nothing to change. Now, some of this stuff like tooltips, when you come over here, it will have like a little window that will pop up and show you information. That's what that does. Eventually, after you learn how to use the program, turn that off. But someone who does tutorials all the time, I just leave it on. And that's what this does down here as well. So the first thing that we're going to turn on is over scroll. And what this does, if you size the image, it will size it and put it up here in the corner instead of the center. I don't want that. That just keeps the image like this in the center of the computer. So we're going to make sure over scroll is selected. The rest of this stuff we're not going to touch. So under file handling, so right here it says enable legacy save as. I have that selected because I'm old and I've been using it for so long. The new Photoshop does not let you save as some file formats like a JPEG and save as. They let you do it only in save as a copy, or save a copy is what it is. In my case, I want to do it. I understand how this works, so I have that selected, but if you want to leave that unselected, that's perfectly fine. Nothing else we're going to change. Export. There's something in here called the quick export. What type of file do you want to quick export? I don't actually use this, so it doesn't matter to me as to what it would be set as. I would never output as a JPEG quality 7. That's just not going to turn out very well. But if you want to set that up, you could. I'm not going to do it. Right here on quick export, it says convert to sRGB. If you do use this, you definitely want to convert to sRGB if your quick exports are for the web. The web works in the color space sRGB. So you must have all web images in sRGB. There's also a use legacy export as. We're just going to skip that for now. Performance, we're good. So right here we have something called history states, and it's set at 50. And I'm not going to make this more because I don't usually do that many adjustments to an image. But if you end up doing large composites where you do a whole bunch of stuff, history states let you go back in time, but they only let you, in this case, do your last 50 steps. If you find yourself doing more, you can come in here and adjust that. I have used graphics processor, and the more memory you can allocate to Photoshop, the better. Image processing. So this one is important now with the use of AI. even if you're not going to be generating fake stuff. All the selection tools and a lot of stuff that work inside of Adobe Photoshop work off the cloud better. So you'll see right here, it's device, and that's the default, but I have mine set on cloud, and then I have more stable and faster, more stable, more stable. So these are all going to need to be changed. You'll get more accurate selections when you do that. Scratch disks. So scratch disk, right now I have mine selected on an external hard drive instead of my internal hard drive. If you had a massive hard drive, you could leave it, but the scratch disk means that Photoshop needs like free space to work. And if it doesn't have any space, it won't function at all. So if you run into the issue that you have a teeny tiny hard drive, you might want to go ahead and you can select any hard drive that you have. Cursors, I'm not going to change it. This is just basically the default. Transparency settings. So this little image right here where it's light and white displays transparency. I'll show you in later videos, but in this case, this is a logo. If this white, well, actually it was, I flattened it so you could see it, was in this white and gray checkered format, it means that that part of the image will appear transparent. Units and rulers, I change mine all the time. So right now I've got mine in inches, and I don't really use inches much. I usually have mine set on pixels. But sometimes I'm like designing other things for leatherworking, and I'll usually actually put it on millimeters then instead of inches. It's really up to you. I'm going to leave points for type and everything else as is, but you should pick the ruler measurement that you're most comfortable with. You can see up here, I've actually got my rulers. It's Command R, that's what shows that. Guides I actually use a lot. It's more of a design principle, and these are just the colors that they appear. For right now, we're just gonna leave those. For plugins, everything I have is default. Type, everything here is default. Enhanced controls, default. Technology previews, default. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit OK. And we're done with that. We don't ever have to look at it again. Next thing we're gonna set up, color profile. So you're going to come up here to edit and drop down to color settings. And this is the first step usually, unless you're shooting JPEG, of managing color. Now mine have been changed. I can't actually remember. It's probably maybe monitor RGB is the default. I use the color profile of Adobe RGB. If you don't know what that means, go on to the miscellaneous section of shutterbugacademy.net, and I have a couple articles. It talks about what color profiles are. The two main ones we're going to use are going to be Adobe 98, which has a larger color gamut, and sRGB that we see right here, because that is the color profile for the web. Pretty much everything else we're not going to use. So we're just going to go ahead and make that 98. The next thing you want is to make sure you're on Gray Gamma 2.2. I'm not sure what it was in the beginning. Spot, I just leave it as is. And then everything under the color management policies, I select to convert to working. I think they're on off first. So what this means is if you have an image and you open it up and has a color profile applied to it, so let's say it was color match, when you open it up, it will automatically convert it to Adobe RGB. So you're in the working profile, you don't have to do anything. If you want it to ask you when it does that conversion, you just select these little things right here. I don't want to have that pop up, so I just leave it as it is. So we're going to go ahead and close that out. Next thing we have, over here we have the toolbar, and these are all the different tools that are inside of Adobe Photoshop. All right, I just wanted to slide that in from the edge a little bit so everybody could see it. But what we have here is the toolbar. And normally this toolbar sits over here, and you can see how it lights up blue? That means it's going to lock into that position. In this case, I don't want to do it. I want you to be able to see it. But right here, you'll look, there's the first symbol, and there's that pop-up window I was telling you about that's like information about it. But right there is that little downward triangle. What that means is there are other tools nested inside. So all I did was left click and hold, and you could see more tools are available. We'll come down here to where there's more. So I'll click on this one, and I can come down here and then I could switch it to the magic wand. And if I wanted to go back, I can switch back there. Also, when you select these, notice that there's a letter. So we've got CCCC. So whatever the active tool is, if you select up here and then I hit the letter C on my keyboard, it automatically goes to that crop tool. Okay, now this is the problem. There's a whole bunch of tools and I absolutely hate the nesting function. I don't want them to be nested. And there's a lot of tools that I don't use. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up here and go to Edit, Toolbar. Cool. And so we get this little box here, and this is going to allow us to convert or configure the toolbar. So you'll see over here, I've already done this and I can restore this to the default so it goes back to the beginning. And so right now there's nothing in it. So my toolbar is going to be full now over here with everything that's available. And if I scroll down, you can see that. And you can see how we have this first toolbar and then there's a box with more tools. This means that they're nested. So anything that's in a group gives you that little arrow and that means it's nested. You can take them out of being nested. You can take them out so they're not nested, and actually that's what we're going to do. So we're going to go through here and make some adjustments. The first one is the magnetic lasso. I just can't stand it, so I'm going to get rid of it. Right? I'm actually going to leave most of these here. However, I want the selection tool brush not nested, so I'm going to move it out. So you can see I just left clicked and dragged and gave it its own little space. All right, those two can be nested together, that's okay. Next we have the object selection tool, that's coming out. We have the quick selection tool, that's coming out. And then we have the magic wand. Actually, I'm going to put the magic wand back in with the quick selection tool. Then we have the crop tools. I don't ever use the slice tool, the slice select tool, or the perspective crop tool. So I'm just going to remove those. That doesn't mean that you can't work it. It's just I do it a different way. I don't need it. Okay, right here we have the frame tool. I do use that. Right here we have a whole bunch of tools. I'll leave those nested. Really all I use is the eyedropper, and that's the one on the top level. Okay, here's some that I definitely want to remove. So all these need to be out on their own because I don't want to have to go into the nesting function, and I do use them. However, red eye tool, I'm never going to get it and I'm never going to use it. So we're just going to go ahead and change that. Looks like I went down too far. All right, next we have the brush tool, the pencil color replacement mixer brush. I'm just going to leave those as is. I don't really use anything but the brush tool, but who knows when I might use it. Next we have the clone stamp tool, that's good. Down here we have the blur tool, the sharpen tool, and the smudge tool. I don't use any of those, so I'm going to go ahead and just get rid of them because they don't need to be in there if I'm not going to use it. And the cool thing is they don't actually disappear, they're just not here. But if you click on these three little dots that we see right here, they're going to be available, and I'll show you how that works in a second. So right here we've got the dodge bird and the sponge tool. I don't use the sponge tool, so I'll go ahead and delete that. Leave the pen tools and probably most everything else. Yeah, we look good. So next, I want to create my own preset. So I'm going to hit save. And just because I've probably got a whole bunch in there, as you can see, I've already set some up. I will just do 2026. Initials, and boom. So then I can save it. So if I ever do reset it and need to go back in, or I need to configure a different set of tools for a different process, we can do that. So we're going to hit done, and then I'm going to grab this and make sure that blue line shows up and let go, and boom, it's there. I prefer to have it in the long one. It's just easier for me. Right there's the rulers. It's Command R, Control R on a PC. That makes your rulers pop in and up. This little tab pops up for every window you open. So if I open another image, you can see that it has a tab. So this tab is highlighted and this one is active. If I click on this one, that one's active. Click on this one's active. Click on the little X right there, that will go away and close that window. So right down here, we have this little window, and this window moves, and it's called the contextual taskbar. If yours isn't up, you will go to Window, and you can see right down there, contextual taskbar. Also, while I'm thinking about this, watch my toolbar disappear. Uh-oh. And then I'm gonna have it come back. If you accidentally hit the tab key, those things disappear. So just so if you can't find them, hit the tab key. That's most likely your issue. So the last thing are the windows over here. Any window that you see here is available under Window. So anything with a little check mark next to it right now is showing over here. If you want something to show, like adjustments, we would select it and then boom, adjustments show. So right up here we have what we call workspaces. So I'm going to click this and it's going to open them up. You can see I've got a whole bunch of them. I think the default is essentials. So I don't want essentials. I'm going to go to photography and then it's going to reconfigure the different windows. In this case, I'm going to do this custom. And this is going to take a little bit for me to explain how this works. All right, so first of all, we have these little double arrows up here. If we select these, it closes the window. This is going to be important if you work on a laptop instead of a big giant computer like I have, because you're going to have issues with real estate or screen space. So if you want to open that, you can close it here. So if you wanted this just to open, you can click on adjustments and you can see it will open here on the side instead of when you do it here, which is opening in that location. All these windows can be resized. So right here we have this little black double line. And if I move my cursor over it, we get these little double arrows. I'm going to let go of that so it's not zooming in. If I left click and scroll to the left, it makes that window bigger. If I scroll to the right, it's making it smaller. I'm holding the left click down when I do this, all right? And then when I let go, it gets rid of it. You can do the same thing with the windows here. So right here we have a double line. So wherever there's a double line, I can left click and I can go up or down while I hold that left click and it will adjust that window. Within Windows, we can have tabs. So you can see right here we have history, and I'm going to left click this and drag it up and put it there. So you see how that little area of adjustments gets a blue box around it. If I let go, it makes it as a tab. If I take history and go in between, it gives me that horizontal line. It's going to create like its own little window. If I want to get rid of it, I can come here and hit close and it will get rid of that. If I put this up here and put two of them in and I say close tab group, it's going to get rid of both the properties and the adjustments. In this case, I don't want to do that, so I'm not going to do it. So the way I want my windows to lay out is very specific. All I can tell you is go ahead and do it the same way that I'm doing it now, and then over time, if you want to reconfigure your windows, definitely go ahead and do that. So I'm going to take my adjustments, I'm going to move them up here. So I have my adjustments there, right? And I'll move this up just so it's not wasting any space. That looks good. Layers is here, and I want to have a large area for layers because it's something that I use. Next up here, we have properties. And properties, you'll see what they do later. And then down here, we have the info window. And I don't think the info window is probably up by default, so you'll probably have to go window and then down to info. And then when you get this, I think it's on CMYK. So this little eyedropper that we see right here, select that and make one of them grayscale. And I use the other as RGB because as a photographer, we only work in RGB and grayscale anyways. You don't really tone in CMYK, you convert to CMYK. And this is something that's really valuable that I use all the time. Now we did get rid of history, so we can come down here and drop and select history, and history can pop up, and I could easily put this into another location. Usually what I do is I just tab it up here because I'm not really using it that much. And that's how I'm going to set that up. Now, just like the toolbar, we can then come in here and we can go ahead and create a new workspace. So I'm going to hit new workspace and I'll do another one, 2026 JCW. Down here, we could also configure keyboard shortcuts. We're not going to do that. Menu and toolbar. So I'll just go ahead and leave all those because I want everything to be saved like that. So it's going to pick up that information there. So we're going to hit save and boom. So now if I ever want that, I can just come over here and I can select that right there. That's the location of how I set up the computer. Well, that's it on how to set up Adobe Photoshop. I know it's not the most exciting thing, but it's something that you have to do. So if you want to open some images up in Adobe Photoshop and start playing around, go ahead. In the next video, I will get into the toolbar, how to open some windows, and just some basic functions inside of the program. If you have any comments or questions, you can leave those below. Don't forget to subscribe and have an absolutely wonderful day.